Chapter 1455, The Little Snake's Violent Temper too, even to the point where. After being silent for a long while, he turned his head to look at Feng Ruqing. Who is Tang Yin? Is she a woman who seduced you too? Feng Ruqing was speechless as she silently mourned for Tang Yin for about 3 seconds. No matter what, Tang Yin was also someone who had almost become Nan Xian's fiancé. However, after meeting a few times, he was still asking her who Tang Yin was. It was also a good thing that Tang Yin had not liked Nan Xian since a long time ago. Otherwise, this sentence would definitely have thrown her into hell. Feng Ruqing pondered for 3 seconds and finally asked, "Then, do you remember who Gu Yi is?" "I do," Nan Xian pursed his lips. "Second uncle's fiancée. She is not very likable." "Why?" "She is not a woman of virtue. After having a fiancé, she is still sticking to you. So, you shouldn't be too close to her in the future. She is about to marry second uncle. If you are too close to her, it is not good for her reputation." Fu Chen, who was sitting in the medium resting, heard Nan Xian's words and was in shock. He frowned hard as the corner of his lips twitched non-stop. "You are just jealous. But you have actually gone and painted Gu Yi as a woman without virtue. Mother is not a man, so how is Gu Yi a woman without virtue? However, his mother would definitely not be the same kind of person as this cheap father. She would definitely not believe these words he had said." Feng Ruqing was stunned at first. Then, she pondered about it for a bit as she stroked her chin with her fingers. Yes, the state preceptor's words make a lot of sense. Next time, I will stay further away from her. It is really not good for her reputation. After all, she is to marry second uncle. Fu Chen was speechless. He felt as if a slap had been thrown at his face, and his expression was extremely unsightly. When has mother become such a conservative person? Indeed, after being with Nan Xian, she has changed a lot. She was no longer the mother I used to know. Just at this moment, a slow, lazy voice rang out. "Where is this place?" A small green snake tunneled out of Nan Xian's sleeve. It shook its head in a blur as its gaze was sluggish. "Are we in Forest of Spirit Beasts?" "That's not right. This place is not quite like Forest of Spirit Beasts. It does not have the scent that I am familiar with, me for extra chapters." Feng Ruqing tilted her head to look at the little green snake in wonder. "Shao Qing, why are you here as well?" Qing Zhu was speechless. What was it to do? It suddenly wanted to run away from home. This time it would never return. "We have already left Lu Yun Kingdom for almost half a month." "When did you start following us? Why have I not noticed you?" "Half a month?" Qing Zhu was stunned. "I have already been asleep for half a month." Feng Ruqing was speechless as she quietly looked at the sun in the sky before looking at Qing Zhu. "Snakes hibernate during winter. But winter has yet to arrive, and you are already hibernating in advance? If I wait for you to hibernate next winter, I can make you into snake soup, and you wouldn't even know it." Qing Zhu suddenly did not wish to speak to Feng Ruqing anymore. Feng Ruqing was smiling from the beginning to the end. "State Preceptor, do you think my idea would work? After all, Shao Qing would not suffer then. The moment it wakes from its sleep, its spirit would have left its body." "Demon!" Qing Zhu immediately shrank back and glared at Feng Ruqing fiercely. However, after he noticed Nan Xian's cold gaze, he immediately put on a fawning smile. "What Princess said is right. Next time I will no longer hibernate during winter. No longer hibernate in summer. I will remain awake at all times. Want to make me into snake soup? Dream on. I won't let you have the chance." Is this Snake Master's pet? How cute. Chapter 1456, The Little Snake's Violent Temper 3. A voice suddenly could be heard from up ahead and Qing Zhu could not help but cock its head ahead. When he saw the glint in Lianya's eyes, he sneered. Another woman mesmerized by my owner's beauty. Fool. None of those who fought with the princess had a good ending. Qing Zhu indifferently pursed his lips as if he could already predict the foolish person's ending. Liania's eyes were full of smiles. I really like snakes, these kinds of animals. This snake looks so cute. What is it called? Qing Zhu's eyes were full of anger and hatred. You are the animal. Your whole family is animals. I am obviously a pet. A pet. It was a pity that Liani did not notice the anger in Qing Zhu's eyes and reached out to touch it. Qing Zhu opened its mouth, and with a crack, it bit Liania's finger ruthlessly. Ah! A heart-wrenching sound echoed through the sky and shocked the whole mountain until the birds flew away. I'm so sorry. Feng Ruqing smiled and swept Qing Zhu into her arm. Our family's little snake doesn't have a very good temper. It doesn't like being touched by strangers. Furthermore, people should not simply touch other people's pets. Qing Zhu stayed in Feng Ruqing's hands without any show of temper. Its body was soft as its gaze was full of sadness. However, when it looked at Liani, it was fierce. Liania's face turned green. She held her finger tightly as her gaze was full of anger. Feng Lianqing, on the hand, desperately wished that he could find a hole and hide in it. He glared at Liani and then looked at Feng Ruqing. I apologize. Madam, Liani is immature. She should not have touched your little pet. Big brother Feng. That's enough. Are you disdaining the fact that you have not embarrassed yourself enough? All spirit beasts don't have good tempers. You have reached out your hand to pet it without asking for others' permission. Who can you blame for being bitten? Feng Lianqing did not seem very happy about it. However, compared to Liani, he felt that Liani had embarrassed him. Even a 3-year-old child knows not to touch other people's spirit beast. Was this woman so muddled by beauty today? She has actually gone and touched other people's snakes. Being bitten is also what she deserved. If I covered up Liania's wrongdoings, and Master found out about it when we returned, I will surely be taught a lesson. Liani bit on her lip hard. Her face was pale, and her expression unsightly. Me for extra chapters. Oh, that's right, Feng Ruqing's finger patted Qing Zhu's little head as she smiled. My family's little snake's teeth are venomous. What? Liania's face turned pale. Her eyes were filled with panic. Where is the antidote? Feng Ruqing looked at Nan Xian. Nan Xian, do you have the antidote? Nan Xian calmly shook his head. There has never been a person stupid enough to touch Shaoqing. Naturally, there is no antidote. Isn't she the first person Shaoqing has bitten? After hearing Nan Xian's words, Liani, who had initially wanted to cry, was almost unable to hold back on her tears anymore. The good thing was that she ultimately held it in because she did not wish to embarrass herself further. It was just that both of her beautiful eyes were full of suffering and suppressed tolerance. She looked really pitiful. Feng Ruqing's gaze was a little doubtful. Didn't Shaoqing bite Feng Rushuang before? Feng Rushuang? Nan Xian frowned, and after taking a long while to ponder, he finally recalled who the person was. It is that daughter who was initially forced onto Lord Father-in-law. When did Shaoqing bite her? Feng Ruqing did not know whether to pity Feng Rushuang or to feel delighted on her behalf. Because Nan Xian was finally able to remember her name. It was just a pity that he had forgotten the matter of how Feng Rushuang was bitten by Shaoqing when she tried to climb into his bed. She had initially tried to hook up with you, and Shaoqing couldn't bear to watch and had bitten her. Don't you remember any more? Chapter 1457, Tianya is not a person who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. Back then, you and I were not familiar with each other yet, Nan Xian hesitated. That's why I don't remember her. Later on, we got to know each other better, everything she did was related to you, so naturally, I have some impression. My memory is not used to remember unimportant people. I just need to remember things related to you. That will do. My memory is not used to remember unimportant people. I just need to remember things related to you. That will do. Feng Ruqing was stunned. After that, she raised her gaze and looked into the man's calm eyes. He had said these words without his face turning red or his heart racing. Even Qing Zhu felt a little embarrassed. Master Nan Xian, Madam, Feng Lianqing coughed, interrupting the two people who acted as if no one was around them. Liani did not do it on purpose just now. I was wondering if the two of you could kindly bring out the antidote. I will definitely be extremely grateful. He saw that Liani was about to say something else. He immediately tugged her arm, warning her with a gaze. In the end, Liani swallowed back the words that were at the tip of her tongue. Her gaze was full of reluctance and suffering. Feng Ruqing looked at Liani, and she took out a spirit herb from the medium and threw it to her. Eat it. Then you'll be able to get rid of the venom. Liani looked at Feng Ruqing a little skeptically and did not dare to consume the spirit herb, fearing that this woman would intentionally harm her. However, Feng Ruqing was not bothered about her. She shrugged and smiled at Lianqing. I have already given her the antidote. She does not eat it because she suspects that I have other intentions. If she dies when the venom acts up, don't blame me. Feng Lianqing's expression changed slightly as he looked at Liani. I am here. You don't have to worry about anything. You brought everything that happened to yourself. Could it be that you think Master would definitely stand on your side? Master has never been a person to let wrongdoings go unpunished. Master had always differentiated grace and grudges. He only asked to know the rights and the wrongs, and had never covered up or protected the people who had done wrong. No matter who it was the same. There were no exceptions. So, he, too, had never dared to use his master's name to cause trouble outside. Otherwise, his master would definitely beat him to death. Even though Master was more forgiving toward girls, he still did not like arrogant and willful people. Me for extra chapters. Even if Master pampered Helian Yu, he still disciplined her. However, Helian Yu's temper could not change, and she still caused trouble even after being scolded many times by Master. Liani seemed to have thought of Tian Ya's bad temper and held in this anger of hers, swallowing the spirit herb in her hand. The moment the spirit herb entered her abdomen, she only felt as if her stomach was on fire and was incredibly hard to bear. The feeling of needing to relieve herself washed over her as she let out a loud fart. Instantly the bad smell floated over with the wind and entered everyone's nostrils. The crowd immediately took 2 steps backward and maintained a distance from her. Their eyes were full of disdain. Luckily, Feng Lianqing still remembered their friendship in the past and did not leave her behind as he forcefully held his breath and stood by her side regardless of how that bad smell made him frown and how difficult it was for him to breathe. Liania's eyes widened as she looked at Feng Ruqing angrily. What exactly did you give to me? The antidote. Feng Ruqing shrugged. You have already excreted the venom. What now? Is there still any problem? Liania's face was full of shame and anger, and she wished desperately that she could find a hole to tunnel into. Especially for the fact that she had made a fool of herself in front of this immortal-like man. She did not even have the bravery to continue living. Liani, that's enough. Feng Lianqing's voice when he spoke sounded a little odd. It was like his throat was being pressed against, and he did not dare to inhale too strongly. Go and tidy up a bit immediately. We still need to continue on our journey. If we delay and the little prince meets with danger, Master will definitely kick you out of General Manor. Chapter 1458, Tianya is not a person who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. Liani gritted her teeth. She did not dare to stay here, so she quickly left. After she disappeared, Feng Lianqing exhaled deeply. This breath he held in was a little difficult to bear. However, in order not to hurt Liania's pride, he did not dare to be like others to keep a distance from her. However, He was also worried that once he breathed, he would breathe in air with a terrible smell. There were quite a few water sources in the Spirit Beast mountain range and Lieni returned very quickly. She had even changed into a new set of bright clothes as she glared at Feng Ruching fiercely. This time, she wizened up, not saying a word and not doing anything, obediently standing by Feng Liangqing's side. Her strong brows and heroic eyes had a calmness to it. Big brother Feng, I'm ready. Let's continue on our journey. All right. Feng Liangqing agreed and continued leading everyone along. Feng Ruching walked behind the group and touched her nose as she smiled. State Preceptor, her face is really thick. Just now, she had just soiled her pants, and she still can act like nothing happened. No wonder she keeps eyeing other people's husbands. Yes. Nan Xian smiled indifferently. Indeed, it is thick. If it were Shao Qing, perhaps it would not even have the courage to continue standing here. Qing Zhu was speechless. How was this related to it? Lieni, who was in front, had originally heard Feng Ruching's words but remained unmoved. However, Nan Xian's sentence almost made her crumble to the ground. She felt uncomfortably panicked. Sure enough, she had diarrhea just now, which caused this fairy-like man to loathe her. Originally, he would still glance at her. It's all this woman's fault. It is just her jealousy that has caused trouble, and that's why she had purposely poisoned her and made her eat a laxative so that she made a fool of herself in front of everyone, causing Nan Xian to disdain her. Liania's heart felt empty as she lowered her head in dismay. Feng Liangqing, who was by her side, finally noticed something. He looked at Lieni and then looked at Nan Xian. His voice was serious. Lieni. Lieni was suddenly agitated and immediately hid her emotions, smiling at Feng Liangqing. Big brother Feng, is something wrong? You can never snatch things that belong to other people. Do you understand? Feng Liangqing was serious. If it's not yours, in the end, it would still never be yours. I am only reminding you since I have known you for so many years. Otherwise, the one who would get injured in the end will be you, me for extra chapters. Liania's gaze dropped. In Wushang City, it was not that there was not a single outstanding man, but there was not one who could move her. Feng Liangqing was also very outstanding. Everyone in general manner hoped that she could be married to him, but she was too familiar with Feng Liangqing. They grew up together. How could feelings suddenly appear? Only him. Only the man who was behind her was one that she felt moved by with a single glance. Regardless of looks, bearing, or that cool, calm look, she liked them all. Just like an immortal in the drawings. Too bad that she had appeared too late. That man already had a wife. If she were to be his concubine, but with her identity, she simply could not possibly be someone's concubine. This kind of infatuation she had was beyond her control. She wanted to be close to him, kiss him, and even wished to bear his children. I understand, big brother Feng. Liania's tightly clenched fists loosened as she smiled and replied to Feng Liangqing. About her own infatuation, Lieni did not feel that there was any wrong. It was not that she had hurt his wife. It was his wife who had attacked her first. Furthermore, even if this man already had a wife, she could still compete with her fairly. Chapter 1459, Tianya is not a person who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. 3 In the world of feelings, only the person who was not loved was the third party. If this man chose her, then his wife could only retreat. She could not be someone's concubine. Of course, Lieni very clearly knew that Feng Liangqing could not possibly understand how she felt. So, she would not say these words aloud. She remembered that she had once looked down on those women who desired to be involved in other people's relationships. Now that it was happening to her, she felt that the principal wife sent to the cold palace was the true third party. Big brother Feng, I also remember the general's teachings. Don't be arrogant because you are pampered, don't obtain love with your looks, don't be arrogant and overbearing and don't bully the weak. I have always remembered them. I will not go against the general's words. She would not bully that woman, but she would compete justly. If that woman was not her match, then she could not be blamed. Lieni squinted as the corner of her lips curled up into a smile. She had even forgotten the incident where she had made a fool of herself just now. And she had forgotten Nan Xian's sarcasm. Feng Lianqing did not notice the change in Lianya's heart and thought that she had already given up as he slowly let out a sigh of relief. It's good that you can understand. You are very clear of Master's character. He is not one who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. He frequently scolds even Helian Yu. What more you? His words could not be more direct. Tian Yi liked Helian Yu a lot and liked her direct and non-conniving personality. However, Helian Yu really liked to cause trouble unnecessarily, so, from time to time she would end up being yelled at by Tianya. I understand. Lieni smiled. However, her eyes had a glint of unclear emotions. Tianya was not one who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. If she was not wrong and it was others who bullied her, then Tianya would definitely be extremely angry. He did not let wrongdoings go unpunished, just targeted. It was her who had provoked others first, and she was in the wrong first. So, she definitely could not go and offend this woman first. She could only wait for this woman to find fault with her. Only then Tianya could let wrongdoings go unpunished. If it were the kind of leniency without asking right or wrong, perhaps only the few little kittens of Tianya could make him so unreasonable. Besides that, there was no other person who could make him treat them differently. At Feng Manor, an old man was lazily leaning on the soft chair. His red robe was showy. A soft, cute, white little kitten was in his arms as his attitude was lazy, and the corner of his lips were curled up into a slight smile. General, me for extra chapters. Not long after, an old man entered from outside in a rush as he said respectfully, we have asked where Jia Xian has run off to all these years. Jia Xian had disappeared these few years, and no matter how they searched for him, they could not find him. As such, Tianya had given an order just now that they had to force information from him. He said he went to a place called Sangyu Mainland. Sangyu Mainland? Tianya immediately sat up from the soft couch. As he had suddenly used too much strength, the little kitten was accidentally sent flying, and it let out a wronged and pitiful cry. Meow. If it were in the past, after Tianya heard this sound, he would definitely pick up the little kitten feeling guilty and comfort it in his arms. However, now, his entire old face was extraordinarily excited. What did you say just now? Where is the place that he went to? Sangyu Mainland. This was a name that had not been heard for over 20 years. Tianya's old tears streamed down his face. Perhaps it was because he was too agitated, he gave off a very scary feeling, scaring the old man who was reporting the information until he took a few steps back. General, it is Sangyu Mainland. Jia Xian has personally said so. Tianya's body trembled as he gritted his teeth and said, let's go to the underground prison immediately. Bring Jia Xian to meet me. Chapter 1460. It was Tianya who did not let wrongdoings go unpunished. I in the underground prison. It was dark, gloomy, and damp. Jia Xin's body was curled up into a ball as he trembled. His gaze was full of fear and nervousness, and his face was as white as paper. Just at this moment, the underground prison door was opened, and a flash of light shone in from outside the door, shining on Jia Xin's body. Jia Xian raised his head to look over. When he caught sight of the old man standing by the door of the underground prison, his whole body shuddered as a light of panic and fear flashed in his eyes. Even his body had wriggled backward a few times. However, behind him was an ice-cold wall, making him unable to retreat. What do you all wish to do? Even his voice was trembling. Obviously, what he had been experiencing in these few days was going to stay with him for the rest of his life. Tianya was like a ghost as his figure floated before Jia Xian. With a single hand, he picked Jia Xian up by the collar. His old face was expressionless, even to the point that there was no single ripple of emotion, making people unable to guess what he was thinking. During this period of your disappearance, you went to a place called Sangyu Mainland? Jia Xian swallowed a mouthful of saliva in fear as he trembled and shook. Yes. What did you do there? Tian Ya's old face was cold. Tell me everything. Otherwise, I will make today unforgettable for you. Jia Xian was stunned. Perhaps he did not understand why Tianya had to be so interested in his actions during his days in Sangyu Mainland. However, facing this old thing, Jia Xian did not dare to hide anything, as he said tremblingly. I just went to a place called Tianshan Manor. Tianshan Manor? Tianya squinted, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. This Tianshan Manor looks like it survived. I wonder if that old thing in Tianshan Manor is still alive. Then? I stayed there for many years. If it were not for Mu Huan from the Mu family, I would not have left. The moment he mentioned the name Mu Huan, Jia Xian gritted his teeth. If it were not for this death-deserving despicable person, how could he possibly appear? And furthermore, he would not have been dragged into this place by this black dragon. Me for extra chapters. Mu Huan. Tianya frowned. He did not have much of an impression toward this name. Then, how did you go to that place? All these years, he had tried countless methods but was unable to return. This world seemed to be sealed, sealing everyone to this mainland, only allowing entry without exit. Jia Xian looked at Tianya cautiously. It was. I gave up all my cultivation. Only then was I able to go to Sangyu Mainland. Give up all cultivation. Tianya was immediately discouraged. If he gave up all his strength and returned, would that group of people not skin him alive? No. No. He needed to find a different method. He needed to return to Sangyu Mainland without being harmed. Last question. How did you return? Tianya continued to ask. Jia Xin's eyes were full of hatred. It is all Mu Huan's fault. I treated this person like a pearl in my palm. She was bullied, and naturally, I could not ignore it. To be honest, that Mu Huan's enemy was too weak, except for that old man in the Mu family. Oh, and another husband and wife pair. I believe they are called Feng Tianyu and Nailan Yan. These two people were slightly stronger. However, their strength is confined to just that world. Before me, they aren't even worth a glance. Saying this, Jia Xian was a little proud and had actually forgotten his current situation. He also did not notice how Tian Ya's face had darkened. If it were not for that black dragon ripping open a void, I would not possibly have been dragged in by it. That husband and wife would long have died, and I would not have ended in such a situation. Chapter 1461, It was Tianya who did not let wrongdoings go unpunished. That group of people were too weak, they could never be his opponents. If it were not for the black dragon, the bodies of Feng Tianyu, Nailan Yan, and the rest would have long grown cold. Tianya remained expressionless as he looked at Jia Xian coldly. Just now you mentioned that couple, what were their names? Jia Xian was stunned as he looked at Tianya with a confused gaze. He was silent for a while but finally replied, Feng Tianyu and Nailan Yan, they and the Mu family's young lady, someone called Suyi, are in-laws. Repeat it, what are their names? Tian Ya's tone subconsciously was serious and severe as he asked, enunciating each word, one by one. Jia Xian was stupefied. Was something wrong with Tian Ya's ears? He had already said it twice. Feng Tianyu and Nailan Yan, rumble. Tianya launched a vicious fist directly at Jia Xin's chest. Jia Xian was caught unprepared as he crashed into the wall. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his chest hurting badly. He snapped up his head to look at Tianya. Say their name again. Jia Xan dumbly said. Feng Tianyu and, thud. The sole of Tianya's foot met Jia Xin's face. This kick was very strong, and Jia Xin's nose started to bleed non-stop. Even his face turned reddish-purple. Say it again, what are their names? Tianya expressionlessly approached Jia Xan, step by step. This time, Jia Xan wizened up as he kept his mouth shut and stopped speaking. Even if he did not know why Tianya was so angered, he understood that this old man would definitely beat him to death if he continued to speak. Even though he had abused Tianya's cat before, Tianya did not appear to be this violently angry. It was almost as if he wished to send him straight to hell. Tianya grabbed Jia Xan by the collar and dragged him closer. His expression was extremely cold. Jia Xan, tell me, that Mu Huan from the Mu family. Why did they want to attack the two people? Immediately tell me. Otherwise, I'll beat you to death now. Jia Xan shuddered. He could feel Tianya's rage, and his face turned pale. Me for extra chapters. I am not clear either. It seems like it was because of Nan Sui. Feng Tianyu's daughter is Nan Sui's daughter-in-law. Mu Huan's mother was the concubine of the Mu family. General Tianya, I've done wrong, I've really done wrong. I beg you to forgive me. I will not bully your cat anymore. I won't dare to escape again, either. Perhaps he was afraid that Tianya would continue to beat him up violently. He knelt and wailed as he hugged Tianya's thigh. His tears were mixed with the blood that flowed from his nose. Tianya kicked hard against the back of Jia Xin's head as he pushed him to the ground with his foot. Where is that despicable person called Mu Huan? Jia Xan sobbed as snot flowed from his nose. Sangyu mainland. Housekeeper, cripple his cultivation and exile him to Sangyu mainland. Get him to inform that Mu Huan, and also that little concubine. These two despicable people better stay alive and wait for me to take their bastardly lives. The old housekeeper was also a little stunned. He also did not understand why Tianya was so angered. General. Do you know, that couple? Tianya looked down upon Jia Xan, who was being stepped on under his foot. I come from Sangyu mainland. A very unfortunate coincidence is that the person called Feng Tianyu is my son. Rumble. This sentence was like lightning striking on a clear day, ruthlessly smashing into Jia Xin's head, so much so that he felt as if his whole head was about to split open. Feng Tianyu was Tianya's son. Not possible. How is there such a coincidence? How is Feng Tianyu Tianya's son? Chapter 1462. It was Tianya who did not let wrongdoings go unpunished. 3. Jia Xan seemed to have lost his soul. He had bullied Tianya's cat, and at most, Tianya would have made life a little more difficult for him. His crime did not warrant death. However, if he had almost murdered Tianya's relative, then with Tianya's means, he would never let him off. When Tianya removed his foot from Jia Xan suddenly climbed back up and hugged Tianya's thigh. General, I really didn't do it on purpose. It was Feng Tianyu's daughter who is arrogant and domineering, bullying the weak. She had bullied Mu Huan, and I just could not bear to watch. General Tianya has always been reasonable. You can't treat me like this just because of that. Tianya was not an unreasonable man. Although he would protect his own people, that was under the circumstance where his people were not in the wrong. Now, he wanted to keep his life and could only push all the responsibility to Feng Tianyu's daughter. After all, Feng Tianyu was the son Tianya had brought up. Tianya would definitely be aware of his own son's character. However, Tianya was already in Wushang City more than 20 years ago. So, he definitely had not met his granddaughter before. If he said this, Tianya would not possibly be able to judge his wrongdoings. Jia Exan felt proud of his wit as the corner of his lips subconsciously lifted into a slight smile. However, before his smile could widen, Tianya had once again raised his leg and ruthlessly sent him flying. Presumptuous. Is my granddaughter someone you can talk about badly behind her back? Jia Exan's smile immediately froze at the corner of his lips. He spat out a mouthful of blood as his body landed in a heap on the ground. General Tianya, he gritted his teeth. I am telling the truth. You have always been a reasonable person. You can't cover up for her just because she is your granddaughter. Tianya raised his brows. There was a hint of dominance in his brow as well as an unforgettable arrogance. Although I have never met my granddaughter, I am very confident of myself. She is definitely not someone who would bully the weak. Even if she did bully someone, so what? That shows the person deserved to be bullied by her. You dared to attack my people. Then, you have to pay the price. The housekeeper who was standing nearby was left speechless. Besides that cat, it was the first time he had seen the general protect the wrong without caring about who was in the right or wrong. Old housekeeper, go and pass the order in a bit. Cripple his cultivation and throw him back to Tsangyu mainland. I want those old men in the reclusive world who just can't seem to die to know that my granddaughter has my protection. Those who bully her should clean their necks and wait for my return. Tianya finished speaking and then casually turned around and left. He did not even look at Jia Xian who had crumbled to the ground behind him. Jia Xian raised his head to look at Tianya's departing figure, his eyes slowly showing despair. Me for extra chapters. Outside the underground prison, Tianya halted. His red robe was very dazzling, showy, and domineering. Housekeeper, did you hear it? The housekeeper was stunned. What? My son and daughter-in-law have given birth to a granddaughter for me. It is a beautiful, petite, cute, and obedient granddaughter, not a grandson. The housekeeper was speechless. It's a pity, I don't have a way to see my pretty and obedient granddaughter. I also don't know if any of those old things have realized my identity and gone to bully my little granddaughter during the years I've been away. Tianya squinted, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Furthermore, hearing Jia Xin's words, my pretty little granddaughter has married? How could she so simply get herself married? If she inherited her father's good judgment, that is still okay. What if she inherited her mother's judgment? What would I do? The old housekeeper had not initially understood Tianya's meaning. He had only managed to understand after he thought about it a few times. His old face could not help but twitch a couple of times. General, how much do you disdain your son? Chapter 1463, Don't be calculative toward a wild child. What are you still standing there for? Tianya gave him a kick. Settle this rascal immediately. If you don't settle him, I will feed you to the pigs first. The old housekeeper was caught off guard and was sent lunging forward with that kick. He even almost fell to the ground. It was a good thing that he had managed to steady himself in time. He looked at Tianya sadly. However, without waiting for another kick from Tianya, he immediately left. He disappeared outside the underground prison gate without looking back. The air was still, and the silence was deafening. Tianya looked in the direction the old housekeeper had disappeared to as unreadable emotions were written on his face. It has already been more than 20 years, after a while, he finally sighed. In his eyes, the sky before him seemed to have traveled back to the scenes that happened more than 20 years ago. 20 years was sufficient for a country to go through huge changes. Back then, he had rushed into the reclusive world without any time to think for the sake of the citizens of Luyun Kingdom. After that, he was trapped in land of no return and had no way to return. If one were to ask if he regretted everything. Perhaps, if he was given a choice again, he would have done the same. He was the emperor of Luyun Kingdom, the father of all the citizens. He had his responsibilities and duties. Since he was given this position, he definitely needed to live up to the citizens' trust. All these years, perhaps Feng Tianyu was the only one he felt guilty about. A bitter smile hung on the corner of Tian Ya's lips. Back then, after I left, perhaps Tianyu, this little guy, had scolded me behind my back. Maybe even up till now, he is still scolding me for being irresponsible. He could face the people, the citizens, but he had let down his child. Under those circumstances, he had abandoned Feng Tianyu and left. He was unsure how the young and inexperienced Feng Tianyu had dealt with the court full of scholars and cultivators back then. For sure, he had suffered quite a bit. He was very clear about those old men's characters, and the only thing he felt was fortunate was that Feng Tianyu had the support of the Nailan family. Jia Xen, Tian Shen Manor, the Mu family's Mu Huan, Tianya squinted, and his eyes turned cold. However, seeing the situation now, it seems like after I left, Zhangyu mainland was not too peaceful. No matter who it is that had bullied my people, I will make sure that this reclusive world will never have a day of peace. Me for extra chapters. Under the hot sun, an old man dressed in red stood proud and overbearing. However, no matter how hot the sun was, it could not disperse the chilling air surrounding his body. In the Spirit Beast mountain range, Feng Lianqing carefully used the sword in his hands to cut down the branches blocking the road. His gaze was serious, and his expression somber. Perhaps Liani also knew that Feng Lianqing was currently feeling a little anxious, so it was a rare situation whereby she did not say a word but just quietly followed behind him. Another night has passed again. The more time passed, the more anxious Feng Lianqing felt. However, he could not show it on his face to avoid other people feeling anxious. Feng Ruqing looked at the back of Feng Lianqing and gently sighed as she used telepathy to ask Fu Chen, help me take a look and see if there is anyone nearby. Mother, why do we need to care about this and be a busybody? Fu Chen's voice was a little lazy, obviously not willing to care more. I want to leave the Spirit Beast mountain range, but I have to follow them. Oh. Fu Chen reluctantly agreed. Soon, all was silent inside the medium. Chapter 1464, Don't be calculative toward a wild child too. After a while, the little guy's soft voice rang out again. Go straight ahead for 500 meters, then turn right for 1000 meters. There is someone over there, shouting for help. I am not sure whether this is the person these people are looking for. Feng Ruqing cocked her brow. Adopting this cheap son really did help her save some effort. Nan Xian, let's go. She pulled Nan Xian's hand and walked past Feng Lianqing, moving forward. Feng Lianqing was stunned. He saw that Feng Ruqing was walking so fast and immediately shouted after her. Maiden Feng, where are you going? Feng Ruqing did not reply to Feng Lianqing. After all, even if she said that she knew where the person they were looking for was, these people would not believe her. Furthermore, she could not confirm if the person Fu Chen had mentioned was the person they were searching for. Big brother Feng, Liani frowned as her tone was full of dissatisfaction. What is wrong with this woman? Doesn't she know that the Spirit Beast mountain range is very dangerous? She still dares to run around simply. She is obviously getting us into more trouble. We are already in a rush to look for the little prince, and now she is even dragging us down. Feng Lianqing glanced at Liani indifferently. Were these not the two people Liani had asked to stay? However, Feng Lianqing did not have much time to say much now. His gaze was cold as he spoke. Let's go. It's not like we know where the young prince is anyway. We have been searching for him blindly, and going anywhere is the same. It will indeed be a little dangerous if the two of them leave the group. After he finished speaking, Feng Lianqing went in the direction Feng Ruqing had left and chased after her without even sparing a glance at Liani. Liani frowned hard. If it were not for Nan Xian, she would not have asked this useless, troublemaking woman to stay. However, now was not the time where she could afford to be distracted by her thoughts. She gritted her teeth and followed after them. Feng Ruching headed in the direction as per Fu Chen's instructions, and shortly after, she heard a heart-wrenching cry for help. Nearby, a huge spirit beast was looking down at the little fatty who had crumbled to the ground. Its mouth was salivating, and there was a bad stench, making one feel nauseous. The little fatty was so scared that he peed his pants. His face was wet with tears. He was pale, and his eyes were full of despair. Me for extra chapters. Help. Someone, please save me. He regretted it. Regretted that he had run into the Spirit Beast mountain range to prove himself, and in the end, he was about to lose his life soon. Snot and tears were flowing freely from the little fatty's eyes and nose. Both his legs were trembling, and his urine was streaming down his pants. It was terribly smelly and pungent. The huge red tiger before him had stopped. Its gaze was ferocious. With a howl, it leaped over to bite the little fatty. Coincidentally, Feng Lianqing, who followed after Feng Ruching, arrived and saw that the tiger was about to bite the little fatty. His expression changed as he immediately threw the sword in his hand at the tiger. With a hiss, it stabbed into the eye of the red tiger. Howl! The red tiger let out a sharp cry as blood flowed from its eye. Under the intense pain, it no longer bothered about the little fatty who was before it but immediately turned around and ran into the depths of the mountain range. Behind, Feng Ruching calmly looked in the direction in which the red tiger ran off to. Not knowing why, she kept getting the feeling that this spirit beast scent was a little abnormal. Sob. The little fatty felt relieved and immediately let out a wail. Perhaps he was so happy that he was crying, but snot and tears were flowing even faster, messing up his entire face. Feng Lianqing also did not seem to disdain the little fatty as he went to him and half-squatted in front of him. Your Highness, sorry I am late. Chapter 1465, Don't be calculative toward a wild child 3, who asked you to come and save me only now? The little fatty was sobbing badly but still did not forget to glare ruthlessly at Feng Lianqing. If you had arrived earlier, would I have needed to be scared to this point? This is all your fault. Feng Lianqing frowned slightly. He seemed to have long gotten used to the little prince's attitude and did not say much as he slowly stood up and said monotonously, Your Highness, let's go back. This time, the little fatty was obedient as he stood up. He was covered in dirt, looking just like a fat beggar. Big Brother Feng. Liani, with the rest of the people, had finally caught up from behind after much difficulty. With a glance, she immediately noticed the little prince who was following behind Feng Lianqing. She was momentarily stunned and subconsciously turned to look at Feng Ruching. Coincidence? This was definitely a coincidence. It was definitely not possible that this woman had brought them over on purpose. You, the little fatty pointed at Liani. You, servant girl from General Manor, come and carry me. I am so frightened I'm unable to move. Liania's face darkened as she said, angrily, What did you say? I am a servant girl from General Manor. The little fatty proudly raised his head. If you aren't the servant girl from General Manor, then what are you? Could it be that you are his disciple? You, there was a hint of anger on Liania's face. Her identity in General Manor could be said to be the most awkward. She was not Tian Ya's disciple, and neither was she his relative. However, she was definitely not just some servant girl. Back then, she was adopted together with Lianqing by Tianya. However, Tianya had accepted Lianqing as his disciple but did not take her in as his disciple. Although that was that, the people in General Manor treated her as their young lady. Only this death-deserving fatty would say she was a servant. Liani. Feng Lianqing frowned. The prince has been found. That is enough. No need to say anything more. Let's return. But, Liani bit her lip. She really could not understand. Why did Feng Lianqing tolerate this little prince? Even the emperor was respectful toward the general. What more a little fatso? They had General Manor's backing. What was there to be afraid of? After all, he is the prince, me for extra chapters. Feng Lianqing said seriously. However, he paused and continued, Your Highness, Liani is someone from General Manor, after all, and is not a servant. Asking her to piggyback you is not possible. I don't care. I insist that this slave carries me. The little prince started to wail. If you don't carry me, when I return, I will inform my imperial father. You're just a servant, and you actually dare to rebel against my command. Liani was so angry that her body was trembling. She really wished to give this little fatty 2 slaps. The little fatty turned his attention to Feng Ruching. Are you the new servant from General Manor? Take off your clothes to let me wipe my face. Feng Ruching was speechless. She could instantly feel the cold aura of the man beside her. She immediately pulled his hand and smiled. Nan Xian, let's not be calculative toward a child. Nan Xian hesitated, but he did tone down after hearing her words. However, there was a murderous intent in his eyes as he looked at the little fatty. How could it be right to be calculative with a little child? Feng Ruching remained smiling. Feng Lianqing also secretly sighed in relief as he looked at Liani somewhat accusingly. See, this is the attitude other people have. Every time, you get agitated once provoked by the little one. The other person is also a woman, and a pregnant woman at that. She, too, knows that one should not be too calculative toward children. Feng Ruching touched her wrist as she walked over to the little fatty with a smile. Chapter 1466, Don't be calculative toward a wild child 4, Did you want me to take off my clothes so you can wipe your face? The little fatty with snot all over his face tipped his chin up proudly. That's right. And you too. How dare servants like you address yourselves as me in front of the royal prince? You should be calling yourselves humble servants. Oh, Feng Ruching answered calmly. All of a sudden, a vine abruptly appeared around the little fatty's legs, and before the boy could react, he was dangling from the vine in midair. Slap! The vine whipped the little fatty's butt, each whip causing the little boy to scream out in pain at the top of his lungs top. Feng Lianqing was speechless. He looked at the little fatty who was being dangled and whipped, then turned to look at Feng Ruching, who was still smiling. Suddenly, he felt like taking back his words. Tolerance? Ha! If a person who seeks revenge for trivial matters like this is considered to have tolerance, there wouldn't be a single petty person left in this world. On the other hand, the little fatty kept struggling as he yelled out in rage, How dare a lowly servant like you hit me, slap! The vine whipped him again, making the boy swallow his words as he cried out in pain. I will never be calculative toward a child. The young girl smiled. If a wild child misbehaves, just whip him. Why should we be calculative toward him? Everyone was dumbstruck. Feng Lianqing and the group finally regained their senses and wanted to save the little prince. However, Nan Xian suddenly appeared in front of them with a cold expression. Qing'er doesn't need help with teaching someone a lesson. Feng Lianqing was speechless. What do you mean by not needing help to teach someone a lesson? Just how did you assume that we were going to help Feng Ruching? But Feng Lianqing's gaze shifted briefly. This wild child has always been so arrogant. It wouldn't hurt for him to be taught a little lesson, right? Why don't I just pretend that I can't beat this man? When His Highness asks about it, I'm sure Master will be on my side. After all, this isn't my fault, and I'm not the one hitting him. It was the wild child who provoked others first. If I can't beat this man, what can I do to help? So, when Feng Lianqing got closer to Nan Xian lifted his hand only to see Feng Lianqing sticking out his chest and colliding into his hand. Nan Xian was speechless. Me for extra chapters. Bam! Feng Lianqing was thrown back and doubled over on the ground, looking battered following a loud banging sound. He supported himself, trying to get up, only to fall back on the ground, going limp. He could no longer get up. Everyone at the general's manor exchanged glances. Even young Master Lianqing had fallen. So, should they continue to attack? They looked at the little prince being whipped in midair after a brief silence before bracing themselves and rushed over. Only this time, none of them had even gotten close to Nan Xian before they fell to the ground, howling. Nan Xian was speechless. He had not even done anything this time. At that moment, the little fatty's hysterical cries sounded melodious under the clear sky. That was right. To Feng Ruqing, it was indeed melodious. Each time the boy wanted to lash out, Feng Ruqing would whip him, making him swallow his words. Only his cries could be heard. Perhaps it was enough whipping, or maybe because the little prince had stopped lashing out that Feng Ruqing decided to toss him onto the ground. A smile was still plastered on her gorgeous face. Her eyebrows curved as she lowered her gaze to look at the little prince. You. Who did you ask to have their clothes taken off so you could wipe your face again? The little prince was stunned. After a while, he carefully answered, myself. Chapter 1467, The Little Prince Gives an Eye, Right. Feng Ruqing nodded in satisfaction. Am I a servant? No. The little prince shook his head nervously. Auntie is not a servant. This beautiful but ferocious lady was a pregnant woman. There should not be a problem if he called her auntie, right? Feng Ruqing's expression immediately darkened. What did you just call me? The little prince was stunned as he stared blankly at Feng Ruqing, not understanding why she was angry again. For some reason, when he met Feng Ruqing's eyes, the little prince felt his butt burn in pain again. He panicked and blurted out, beautiful sister. Feng Ruqing was quiet. The little prince said carefully, goddess sister. Beautiful and gentle sister. Beautiful, kind, and gentle sister. Seeing Feng Ruqing still quiet, the little prince almost cried out in fright. He had uttered every word he knew from the books. Was there still a problem? Okay. Slowly, Feng Ruqing opened her mouth. A smile played on her lips as she said, see, I told you that you can't be calculative toward a child. We should teach them gently, and they will eventually listen. Feng Lianqing, who was still on the ground playing dead, was dumbstruck. Was that considered gentle education? You've obviously beaten him until he obeyed. Nan Xian, let's go. Feng Ruqing shrugged and walked smilingly over to Nan Xian. When she passed by Lianyi, she did not even spare the girl a glance. The little prince slowly let out a sigh of relief. But just as he did, Feng Ruqing had coincidentally turned around, startling him. He straightened his body with his legs still trembling. Beautiful, gentle, and kind goddess sister, is there something else? Nothing. Feng Ruqing retracted her gaze with her eyes filled with smiles. By then, Feng Lianqing had gotten up. He held a hand to his chest as he staggered over to the little prince. Your Highness, are you okay? The little prince glared furiously at Feng Lianqing. Why didn't you save me just now? Feng Lianqing wore a bitter smile with his eyes filled with grief. Your Highness, I was too powerless. That man was too strong. I couldn't compete with him and protect your Highness. Once we get back, I will report this to my master and have him punish me. The little prince pursed his lips. Are your men powerless as well? I clearly saw that the man did not even touch them, yet they fell, me for extra chapters. Feng Lianqing closed his eyes to hide the pain in his gaze. That's how powerful he is. He's so strong that he doesn't even need to move to kill someone without leaving a trace. Your Highness, we were just too powerless that you had to end up getting hurt. The suspicions were clear in the little prince's eyes. Really? Really? I swear in the name of my master that what I speak is the truth. If there is any falsehood, then, my master will trip over when he walks. Master, I'm sorry. For the sake of general manner, I have no other choice. After hearing this, the little prince believed him. He looked fearfully at Nan Xian. When Nan Xian glanced at him from the corner of his eyes, the little prince shuddered, and he was frightened once again, to the point of peeing in his pants. Feng Ruqing looked at the little prince, then back at Nan Xian. There was confusion in her eyes. The state preceptor is so good-looking, so why does he seem so afraid of you? Moreover, it was she who had given the little prince a beating just now. The state preceptor was a kind man. He would never do something so twisted. Nan Xian pondered for a bit. He might be feeling inferior. Feng Ruqing gave it a little thought before nodding. True. With the state preceptor looking so beautiful, he would definitely feel inferior in front of you. Chapter 1468, The Little Prince Gives in 2, Qing'er, let's go. Nan Xian pulled Feng Ruqing into his embrace with just one arm as a faint smile appeared on his cold face. Lianyi stared fixedly at Nan Xian's arm around Feng Ruqing. The initial admiration in her eyes had now converted into resolution. Someday, she would definitely make it so that she became the person in his arms instead. Hey! The little prince finally regained his senses. He tilted his chin up and looked haughtily at Lianyi. You! Come over and give me a piggyback. As he spoke, he stole a glance at Feng Ruqing. When he saw how Feng Ruqing had ignored him, his courage returned as his voice sounded insufferably arrogant. I'm talking to you, you little servant, Lianyi. I'm hurt, and I can't walk. Give me a piggyback and take your clothes off so I can wipe my snot. Lianyi's expression turned ugly. She glared at the little prince. If you keep being this arrogant, I'll hit you. Perhaps it was because of Feng Ruqing acting as a precedent, Lianyi could now muster the courage as she raised an arm to threaten the little prince. Lianyi. Feng Lianking's eyes darkened. You have to remember your status. Big brother Feng, it was clearly him. Lianyi was filled with grievance. She did not understand. When Feng Ruqing had taken action earlier, not only did Big Brother Feng allow her to do it, he had even feigned defeat to give her a chance. So, why did Big Brother Feng change his demeanor when it came to her? That's enough. Feng Lianqing barked. He turned to a guard standing behind him and said, Take off your clothes for him and carry his highness. We're going back to Wushang City. Yes, young master, the guard answered respectfully. At Feng Manor. After knowing that his son was doing well and had even gained a beautiful and obedient granddaughter, Tianya felt like he was floating as he walked. But as he floated, he was not looking where he was going and had stepped on a fruit skin, causing him to slip and fall forward with a loud bang. Who is it? Tianya got up furiously. His hair was a mess, and he sounded angry. Who's cleaning the yard today? Why isn't it clean? The whole yard fell silent. Me for extra chapters. After seeing Tian Ya's embarrassing moment, everyone wanted to laugh, but they had to stifle it. No one dared to make a sound. Old housekeeper. Tianya roared. Once the old housekeeper heard this, he stopped watching from behind and scampered out to stand in front of Tianya. General, what are your orders? Tianya pointed furiously as the fruit skin on the ground. Whoever is cleaning the yard today, make them eat this. At any rate, he was the general of Wushang City. He was even the retired emperor of Luyun Kingdom. To have embarrassed himself in front of so many people, how could he just let it go? Yes, general. I will have it done right away. The old housekeeper wiped the cold sweat on his forehead as he answered sheepishly. Tian Ya's expression finally mellowed down. With a hand behind his back, he stared calmly ahead, like nothing had just happened. He still looked charismatic and domineering, like a great ruler of the world with dignified aura. The old housekeeper wiped the sweat on his forehead, watching fearfully as Tianya left. At the Spirit Beast Mountain. The little fatty was now in clean clothes, and his face was no longer dirty. Instead, he looked fair and tender. However, his bodice excessive fat was causing the guard, who was giving him a piggyback, to gasp for air. Chapter 1469, The Little Prince Gives in 3. Lieni was following behind Feng Lianqing in silence. However, her eyes were subconsciously looking at Nan Xian, who was walking in front of her, with an odd glint in her eyes. Yet, no one noticed the peculiar look on her expression, so no one noticed that she had induced forbidden thoughts. Big brother Feng. Lieni was quiet for a moment before asking, when can we leave the Spirit Beast Mountain? This Spirit Beast Mountain was too vast. It had taken them a few days to find the little prince, so if they wanted to leave, it would probably require even more effort. Feng Lianqing's eyes darkened slightly. Although he refused to admit it, he had no choice but to acknowledge that they were lost. Yes, lost. I've made markings on the way here, but those marks have now disappeared, so I can't find the way out. The size of the Spirit Beast Mountain was like a few cities combined. In the city, one would not lose their way. However, all of the roads in the Spirit Beast Mountain looked the same, so if they were not familiar with the place, it would be very hard to leave. True enough, Feng Lianqing had made markings when they first came. But now those markings have disappeared, he had no idea how to get back. Once she knew that they would not leave the Spirit Beast Mountain so soon, Lieni felt delight surge within her. That was because she knew that once they left, she would have to part with Nan Xian. She could only take advantage of this time in the Spirit Beast Mountain to get along with him. She had to use the span of these short few days to make him fall for her. That way, she would have a chance. That's okay, big brother Feng. You don't have to be anxious. We can find our way slowly. Feng Lianqing looked at Lieni suspiciously. She had previously been unwilling to come looking for the little prince, but now she was not in a hurry to leave. However, his mind was occupied with trying to find a way out, so he did not think much of it and retracted his gaze. Don't worry. I will lead you guys out soon. The little prince lifted his head up from the guard's back, sounding arrogant as he said, Feng Lianqing, I order you to find the way out within a year, or else. Before he could finish talking, he saw Feng Ruqing turn back suddenly to look at him. The boy was so frightened he immediately swallowed his words and said fearfully, or else, he'll cry, me for extra chapters. Feng Lianqing was speechless. The little prince crying? Now that was something to look forward to. He suddenly hoped to delay their exit. At least, until after the little prince had cried. What did you come here for? Feng Ruqing looked calmly at the little prince without any expression on her face. If someone else had asked him this question, the little prince would have ignored them. But it was Feng Ruqing who had asked instead. He looked fearfully at her and answered honestly, my second royal brother said I was useless and trash. I wanted to catch a spirit beast back to prove that I'm not trash. I've even brought beast-repelling incense but for some reason it became ineffective, so I ran into that red tiger. Feng Lianqing felt ashamed. Little prince, you've entered the deepest part of the spirit beast mountain and the spirit beasts there are terribly strong. That's why the beast-repelling incense doesn't work on them. After hearing Feng Lianqing's words, Feng Ruqing was quiet for a moment. The place where we saved this guy was the deepest part of the Spirit Beast Mountain? Yes. Oh. Then, what about the place where we met? Feng Ruqing continued to ask. That was still the outer region. Okay. Then, if we keep going further in that way, will there be a way out of the Spirit Beast Mountain? Feng Ruqing's tone was calm. There was no hint of any turbulence in her emotions. Chapter 1470, Someone has to take responsibility. Feng Lianqing laughed. How is that possible? The deeper region is dangerous. Even if there's a way in, we can't get too far. So, Feng Ruqing paused. Why are we going further in instead? Why aren't we going back where we came from? Feng Lianqing was stunned. He stared blankly at Feng Ruqing. After that, he turned around to look at the direction where they came from. So, it was not that someone had removed his markings, but he had gone the wrong way instead? Feng Lianqing felt his body stiffen a little. He turned to look at the guards of general manner. Isn't this where we came from? The guards exchanged glances. Young Master Lianqing, after you've saved the young prince, you started walking forward without turning back. Feng Lianqing's expression immediately changed. Why didn't any of you say so earlier? The guards behind him felt aggrieved with sorrow clear in their eyes. Young master, you've said before that we only have to follow you and listen to your orders. If you walk this way, we won't dare to walk the opposite way or remind you. Feng Lianqing was speechless. He turned stiffly to look at Liani. And why didn't you remind me? Liani regained her senses and chewed her lip. I didn't notice. Her gaze was fully focused on Nan Xian, so how could she have any attention left to pay to trivial matters like this? At that moment, Feng Lianqing felt like burying himself in a hole. This was just too embarrassing. His handsome face was all red as he said sheepishly, truth be told, I usually never make such a dumb mistake. It must be because I fell and hit my head earlier. Oh, Feng Ruqing calmly replied, obviously not buying it. Feng Lianqing was flustered, but he dared not vent his frustrations on Feng Ruqing, so he slapped the guard beside him on the back of his head. This slap made the guard stumble forward, and the little prince on his back was tossed away. The chubby body rolled down like a ball and finally stopped after hitting a tree. Me for extra chapters. Silence. The spirit beast mountain fell into sudden silence. The guard was dumbstruck. His face was now ghastly pale as he fell to his knees with a loud thud. Young prince, please forgive me, please forgive me. I didn't do it on purpose. The little prince held the back of his head, feeling dizzy, and stood up. His steps were wobbly, and he almost fell again. Just then, a leopard rushed over from beside, picked the little prince's chubby body up in its mouth, and dashed away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Feng Lianqing was stunned. Everything happened so quickly. It was so sudden that he did not have a chance to react. Big brother Feng. Lianya's face was as pale as a sheet, looking flustered. What do we do? The little prince has been taken away by a leopard. Feng Lianqing's expression looked a little sickly as well. But he did not have time to spout nonsense like Liani as he rushed in the direction where the little prince had disappeared to. In an instant, he, too, was gone. Miss Liani, what do we do now? The guards did not possess such speed and could never catch up to them, so they looked at Liani with panic in their eyes. Especially the guard who had tossed the little prince away just now, he could now barely stand. His eyes were filled with fear. If anything happened to the little prince, His Highness would never forgive him. It was over. His life was completely over. Chapter 1471, Someone has to take responsibility. Lianya's expression was dark. She stared coldly at Feng Ruqing with a smirk on her face. I think everyone knows how the little prince went missing. When we get back, I will report this to His Highness honestly. Someone has to take responsibility for this matter. If Feng Ruqing had not reminded Big Brother Feng that he had gone the wrong way, Big Brother Feng would never have hit someone out of anger. If it had not been for that slap, the little prince would not have rolled away. If the little prince had not rolled away, he would not have been taken away by that leopard. In summary, this responsibility should be entirely shouldered by Feng Ruqing. Let's go. Liani sauntered over to Nan Xian and deliberately softened her voice. It's dangerous here, and I have to report this to His Highness. Will you come with me? She did not want to part with this man. But now that Big Brother Feng was gone, there would surely be other trouble if they stayed in the deep region of the forest. The little prince probably would not make it, so there was no meaning for them to stay. It was better to go back and report this to the emperor so that he can make his decisions. But she still wanted to give Nan Xian one last chance. If Nan Xian went with her, she would try to speak up for him before the emperor so that Feng Ruqing would not drag him down with her. Nan Xian briefly lifted his hand. A chill appeared in his eyes mixed with murderous intent. Feng Ruqing noticed Nan Xian's actions. She held his hand gently and whispered, "Tang Yin. Tang Yin. Tang Yin again." Nan Xian's expression turned cold. Back then, Qing'er had chosen to go with these people because of Tang Yin, which had resulted in them not being able to spend any time alone. Now, she was stopping him from doing anything because of this Tang Yin again. Did this Tang Yin matter so much to her? Nan Xian felt conflicted, but he recalled his murderous intent nonetheless. With a wave of his hand, a large force crashed into Lianya's chest, throwing her a few meters back. Me for extra chapters. I didn't kill her. She talks too much, so I don't want to travel with her. Feng Ruqing was speechless. It seemed like she really did talk too much. Let's just not travel with them then. Well, go and find Feng Lianqing. Feng Ruqing squinted. Wanting to know Lianya's identity did not mean they had to probe her directly. Feng Lianqing seemed easier to get along with. Most importantly, the man was dumb, so they could get more information. Yeah. Nan Xian finally looked more at ease. He remained gentle as the clear moon and calm as a light breeze. Feng Lianqing was a man. There would be no problems when traveling with him. Ahem. Ahem. Not too far away, Lianyi got up from the ground, coughing briefly. She looked ahead with a pale face as she watched the white robes disappear slowly, unable to retract her gaze for the longest time. Miss Lianyi. The general manners guard rushed over to Lianyi and asked worriedly, "Miss, are you okay?" "I'm okay." Lianyi closed her eyes gently. She felt a dull pain in her heart. The first time. This was the first time she had fallen for a man. But this was the outcome she received. And don't let General know about what happened just now. Lianyi opened her eyes. I wanted to help him out of kindness, but he has treated me this way instead. If General knew about this, he would definitely get angry. I don't want him to face any danger. Even if he hated her or was annoyed by her, she did not want this man harmed in any way. Lianyi wore a bitter smile as she looked in the direction where Nan Xian had disappeared to for the last time. After that, she retracted her gaze and turned to leave. Chapter 1472, Someone Has to Take Responsibility 3. However, the moment she turned, a vine slithered out from below her feet and with a loud slapping sound, the vine whipped her face, leaving a bloody scar on her fair and tender skin. Hiss! Lianyi gasped in pain. She lifted a hand to wipe her face only to realize that her hand was covered in blood. There was fury in her eyes. Feng Ruqing. The guards exchanged glances. Miss Lianyi, she had already left. It might not be her. Lianya's body was trembling, the resentment clear in her eyes. Who else could it be but her? This vine clearly belongs to her. I've never deliberately gone against her or done anything to her, but she keeps trying to harm me. I will remember this. Even if General asks about this, she will be the first to be blamed. The General had taught them to never bully others because of their authority and never to be arrogant. She had done as he told her to. The General had also taught them that revenge must be taken and that they should not let anyone bully them. She had always remembered this. Now that the other party had attacked her first, it would not be considered bullying if she retaliated. She would just be taking revenge for herself. But she was really gone. The guard had just spoken, but when he saw Lianya's dark expression, he stopped talking. Lianyi suddenly chuckled. But I won't have to take any action anymore. This woman has caused the little prince's fall, so His Highness and the Empress definitely won't let her off. Even if the little prince was natural-born trash, the Empress still loved him dearly. If she knew that someone had harmed the little prince, that person would face a tragic ending. Let's go. Liania's eyes were dark as she turned to look at the guards behind her. One more thing, you guys should know what you can or cannot say. The little prince being taken away by a leopard was Feng Rooking's fault. If any of you reported incorrectly, Big Brother Feng might get dragged down instead. Big Brother has been kind to all of you. If you harmed him that way, your conscience would haunt you forever. The guards looked down, staying silent. Me for extra chapters. That incident earlier was not Miss Feng's fault. But, if they spoke the truth, not only the Emperor and the Empress, even the General might be furious. If the General tried to speak up for young Master Lianqing might not make it out unscathed. We understand, Miss Liani. It was true that young Master Lianqing treated them well, so how could they let him be punished? If young Master Lianqing ended up being chased out of General Manor because of this, with his pride, it would be agonizing for him. Liani finally retracted her gaze and started moving forward indifferently. A leopard was holding onto a little fat boy in its mouth in the deeper region of the Spirit Beast Mountain as it dashed away. Woo! Big Brother Leopard, Master Leopard, I only have fats, and am not delicious. Please let me go. Woo! The little fatty was wailing his heart out. His face that was cleaned earlier was now dirty again as his snot danced in the air. The leopard ignored the little fatty as it sprinted. Just then, a dark green silhouette fell from the sky and stood before them, blocking the leopard's way. When the little prince saw the dark green silhouette, he cried harder. Feng Lianqing, save me quickly. Woo! This leopard is trying to eat me. Save me quickly. I promise that I won't ever come to the Spirit Beast Mountain again. Even if he was trash, it was still better than being swallowed alive by a spirit beast. After this miserable encounter, he would never want to come here again. Chapter 1473, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. Let him go. Feng Lianqing's expression was dark as he pointed his long sword at the leopard. Ha! The leopard let out a cold snort. His voice sounded scornful and contemptuous. Each one of you humans is detestable. You enjoy killing and have murdered a lot of spirit beasts in our tribe. Why are you allowed to murder our kind, but we can't kill you, humans, instead? This little fatty will be dessert for my brothers. I won't return him to you. When the little fatty heard the spirit beast speaking human language, he panicked in fright. The second half of the leopard's words made the little boy soil himself a little. It was disgusting. I'm not delicious. I'm really not delicious. I only have fats. Why didn't you target them instead of me? There were obviously a lot more people back there, but why did the leopard choose him? Shut up. If you keep crying, I'll swallow you now. The leopard warned ferociously. Sure enough, after saying this, the little fatty stopped crying. He kept quiet and never made another sound. Feng Lianqing looked at the leopard and said calmly, I admit that many people enjoy killing, but not everyone does. We are reasonable humans. If you don't touch my people, I won't harm you. My tribe, my whole tribe, was murdered. The leopard was trembling. I won't believe the sweet words of a human. You, humans, have bewitched too many spirit beasts of my kind and even had them assist you in killing and hunting. If I didn't attack you, you would have attacked me. I've survived thus far because I wanted to take revenge on humans. To him, every human was the same. None of them were decent. He had survived thus far because he wanted to kill as many as he could. Even if it were not many, he would never continue to live in hiding. Feng Lianqing's gaze darkened. If you won't let him go, don't blame me for not showing mercy. He could not communicate with an unintelligent spirit beast, so he could only force it to let the little boy go. The instant Feng Lianqing lifted his long sword, a voice called out from behind him, making his sword stop midair. Which do you think is faster? Your sword? Or his teeth? Feng Lianqing was stunned. He turned to see a young girl dressed in red robes, slowly walking over. Me for extra chapters. Although it was inappropriate to call a pregnant woman a young girl, when faced with this girl who did not look to be over 20 years old, he was reluctant to call her a woman. The man standing beside this young girl remained fair and calm as if no matter what happened, his emotions would not stir. He was tranquil as a gentle breeze. If I help you. Feng Ruqing smiled, will you tell me about Liani? Feng Lianqing was stunned. He stared at Feng Ruqing, lost. Liani? Why do you want to know about her? Feng Ruqing rubbed her chin and smiled brightly. I'm quite interested in her. Feng Lianqing was speechless. He looked at Feng Ruqing, then looked sympathetically at Nan Xian. He could clearly see the dark expression on Nan Xian's face. Ahem. Ahem. Feng Lianqing coughed briefly. Young Master Nan Xian, you don't have to worry about anything. Liani is normal. Nan Xian was speechless. He glanced faintly at Feng Lianqing. Is my Qing'er abnormal? Too abnormal. But of course, he dared not say it out loud. After all, Feng Lianqing was still hoping that these two would help him save the prince. Chapter 1474, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. Too, there was no benefit in offending this petty man. Shao Qing slithered out of Nan Xian's sleeve and shook his groggy head, looking dazed. Where are we now? Are we still in the Spirit Beast Mountain? At Shao Qing's appearance, the leopard became even more enraged. As expected, none of you are any decent. Bewitching spirit beasts to sell their souls to you, you're just the same as everyone else. Shao Qing got angry. What do you mean by selling souls? I, Master Shao Qing, cherish my life. Who can make me sell my soul? Feng Lianqing was speechless. So this snake, too, can speak. Humph. The leopard snorted. Since all of you want to save him so badly, I'll eat this fatty now and return his bones to you. The little fatty panicked, and his pee trailed down along his pants. His body was still in the leopard's mouth, so he dared not struggle, fearing that he might be cut open by the leopard's sharp teeth. Master Leopard, please calm down. Don't eat me. I haven't bathed in a few days, so I'm dirty and smelly. You have to stay calm and don't panic. At least wait until after I've bathed before you eat me. The leopard was speechless. He wanted to swallow this annoying fatty now. The little fatty was crying with snot all over his face. Beautiful goddess sister, help me quickly. I don't want to die yet. If you save me, I'll become your servant and slave. Feng Ruqing glanced at the little fatty in disdain. She let go of Nan Xian's hand and moved slowly over to the leopard. The leopard narrowed its eyes. If you take one more step, I'll eat this fatty. Sure. Feng Ruqing smiled brightly. After all, this fatty has offended me before. If you want to eat him, go ahead. Do you want me to give you some spices? Hell taste better roasted. The little fatty's face was covered with tears. Haven't I only just mistook you as a servant from General Manor? Do you have to scare me like this? Suspicion flashed in the leopard's eyes. As he watched Feng Ruqing come closer, a deadly glint sparked in his eyes. What are you doing now, me for extra chapters? Feng Ruqing was smiling. I lack a spirit beast. I think you'll be suitable. The leopard was speechless. This woman was so straightforward with her words. Was she afraid that he would not understand her? I will never yield to humans. Really? There were smiles in Feng Ruking's eyes. You've only dared to take the little fatty away and run without stopping because you're badly hurt. You're afraid of being found out and can't fight back, am I right? The leopard's huge body shuddered slightly before regaining his composure. What of it? With the little fatty in my grasp, you lot wouldn't dare to move rashly. Yeah. Whether the little fatty lives or not, it has nothing to do with me. I just think you look decent. You're fierce and strong. You'll be a great help. Look at how you're just scraping by in this spirit beast forest. You even have to eat things raw now. You probably can't even find any spirit herbs to cultivate yourself. The leopard was stunned. For some reason, after hearing Feng Ruking's words, he felt like crying. He wanted to eat roast meat. He wanted to eat spirit herbs. He also wanted to be loved by humans. Previously, humans and spirit beasts had had a great relationship. However, ever since that group of humans appeared, he had been living his life escaping. His tribe was mostly gone, with only a few of them left. He would not even dare appear when he saw humans, and would only dare to bully little trash like this fatty. Chapter 1475, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 3. However, tiny trash like this was scarce around here. How many of the people who come to the Spirit Beast Mountain would be this week? He could only live his days in hiding, fearing that one day he would be caught by humans to become roast leopard meat. It's okay. Feng Ruqing had a smile on her face as she continued to get closer to the leopard. You found me. The leopard was stunned. When he lifted his head, he noticed that Feng Ruqing had gotten close to him. With caution in his eyes, he said fiercely, "Don't come closer. If you do, I'll swallow him." This time, Feng Ruqing stopped. She looked at the leopard and said, "If you wanted to eat him, you would have done so already. The way I see it, you must have a few of your kind left who are also starving, that's why you didn't eat him on the spot. You want to share him with your kind." The little fatty's tears and snot covered his entire face. "I beg you, stop saying something so scary." Being swallowed alive by a leopard was already scary enough, but she said the leopard wanted to share him. Would he even make it out alive? Feng Ruqing ignored the little fatty's expression and continued, "But if you come with me, you won't have to eat raw food or starve anymore. You guys will only have to take care of my garden." The leopard snorted. "No human is decent. I won't believe you." "Oh." Feng Ruqing pouted. The spirit beast had a low IQ, so he was fixed on his thoughts. Saying any more to him was useless. "Forget it then. I had wanted to heal your wounds, but since you're unwilling, let's go, Nan Xian." "Forget him." Feng Ruqing never spared the leopard another glance as she turned to leave. "Wait." The leopard called out with his eyes shut tight. Feng Ruqing paused. "Is there something else? I don't like raw meat. You don't have to share that fatty in your mouth with me." The leopard was speechless. "Who said I wanted to share the fatty with you?" "Me for extra chapters." "You. Can you really heal my wounds?" The leopard paused before asking. "Yeah. Recovery of strength will depend on yourself, but I can heal your wounds. At least it wouldn't hurt anymore, but you don't seem like you need it. Nan Xian, let's go." "He doesn't need me." "Don't," the leopard became anxious. "If you can really heal my wounds, I can let this fatty go." Feng Ruqing raised an eyebrow and turned to look at the leopard. "This little fatty has nothing to do with me. I want to help you because I have a leopard at home too. No, I have a lot of leopards, and each of them is very helpful, so, I'm helpful. I'm very helpful. I have a few other tribesmen too, and they're all very helpful. But can you really heal my wounds?" The leopard still sounded suspicious. He did not want to let go of his only chance, but he did not trust humans. He was afraid that this human would push him over the edge. Feng Ruching did not answer the leopard. Before everyone's eyes, she took out some pots and pans. Under everyone's scrutiny, she took out a stick to start a fire. Feng Lianqing stared at Feng Ruching with his mouth gaping, unable to understand what she was doing. Time trickled away, and the sun set below the mountains. The sunset glow covered the skies as night began within the Spirit Beast Mountain. Soon, a strong fragrance wafted from the pot, making the leopard spit out the boy in his mouth to swallow his saliva. He stared fixedly at the pot in front of Feng Ruching. Chapter 1476, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. 4. It was worth mentioning that spirit beasts do not have very high intelligence. With just the fragrance of food, it was enough to bewitch them to the point of forgetting their initial goals. When the little fatty was spat onto the ground, the snot on his face had dried. Perhaps it was because he had maintained a fixed position inside the leopard's mouth for a long time, he could not move right now. Miss Feng Lianqing looked eagerly at the pot in front of Feng Ruching, swallowing hard with the anticipation clear in his eyes. If you want to eat this, I can have Nan Xian beat you up so that you're hurt all over, and then, you may eat. Feng Lianqing was speechless. The corners of his lips twitched. Forget it then. As he had said that, Feng Lianqing would still glance at Feng Ruching's pot from time to time with desire in his eyes. Feng Ruching ignored him and took out the soup in the pot before bringing it to the leopard. The leopard looked hesitant. But alas, he could not resist the temptation of good food, so he took one lap. The flavor instantly made his eyes sparkle. He immediately picked up the bowl with his mouth and drank its content without leaving a single drop. He looked unsatisfied as he licked the corners of his lips, staring eagerly at Feng Ruching. How do you feel? Feng Ruching smiled faintly at the leopard. The leopard was befuddled by delicious food earlier, so he only realized after Feng Ruching had spoken. The stinging pain in his chest was getting better, and it was not as agonizing as before. This surprised him as delight appeared in his eyes. His gaze on Feng Ruching now looked a little more different. Although there was still caution, the initial hostility was gone. Some of my tribesmen, too, are hurt. The leopard paused before asking, can you help me save them? Feng Ruching squinted at him. How do they fare on labor? They're great. Really great. The leopard was terrified that Feng Ruching would reject him, so he quickly answered. Okay. That will do. Lead the way. All right. The leopard let out a quiet sigh of relief. If his tribesmen could recover, they would not have to live their days in hiding. The little fatty could finally get up. He stumbled as he crawled over to Feng Ruching, crying and sniffling as he said, Goddess sister, from today on, you're my greatest savior. I will be your slave and servant to repay you. As he spoke, he wanted to rub his snot onto Feng Ruching's robes. Feng Ruching lifted a leg to kick him away. Wash your face before you come over, me for extra chapters. Okay. The little prince no longer displayed his initial arrogance. He now looked extremely obedient. Feng Lianqing had never seen the little prince this obedient. The brat was now like a puppy, standing obediently in front of Feng Ruching. If the boy had a tail, Feng Lianqing could probably see him wag his tail as he begged for attention. Nan Xian lowered his head to look at the little prince. Male. Child. There was no threat to him. Master. Shao Qing looked up at Nan Xian and urged softly, have you forgotten about Jiu Ming? Ever since his master had stopped being wary about the men that appeared around the princess, it gave way to a case like Jiu Ming. It's not the same. Yes. It was indeed, not the same. This was a child, so he did not have to be cautious. Moreover, he was ugly. What about the leopard? Shao Qing added. Chapter 1477, leading the spirit beasts to attack the city v. Male. Beast. Servant. Even less threatening. Qing'er would never accept beasts, especially a male beast. Shao Qing was speechless. For some reason, he thought of the black dragon. Does Master really need not be wary of spirit beasts? That black dragon seemed a little different. But when he saw Nan Xian's calm expression, Shao Qing decided not to tell him. Forget it, forget it. That black dragon has disappeared and probably won't ever reappear again. Master really doesn't need to be wary of a missing dragon. Moreover, the princess has married Master, so she won't be flirting around. It's only those shameless women who would throw themselves at the princess. For example, that person named Tang Yin, and that Gu Yi. Shao Qing snorted. Thankfully his master was charming. Otherwise, the princess would have run off with someone else. Feng Ruqing did not hear their conversation. She was following the leopard as they walked into the night. Nan Xian regained his senses and walked over to her. He appeared beside Feng Ruqing in the blink of an eye and lifted an arm to pull the girl into his embrace. Let's go. As he walked behind the couple, Feng Lianqing felt like this public display of affection had just blinded him. He felt a little uneasy. He had never considered a relationship between man and woman, but after seeing this lovey-dovey scene, he suddenly had an urge to start a family too. At Wushang City. Under the osmanthus tree, Tianya was standing with his hands behind him. He was still dressed in bold red with his eyes dark. General. The old housekeeper walked up quietly behind Tianya. I've taken care of Jia Xen. Okay. Tianya smirked. This is considered being lenient to him. If he didn't need to report to Tsangyu mainland in person, I would have never let him leave alive. Heh. To bully his family. Did the man really think that he, Feng Wuhui, was someone who would not protect the weak? One more thing, the old housekeeper paused before continuing. Jia Xian said that he could return only because a black dragon had torn the sky open and dragged him in. Tianya narrowed his aged eyes. And then? I thought if that black dragon can easily drag Jia Xian back, could it also bring the people over here to Tsangyu mainland? Tianya was baffled. What was this old man trying to say? Did he think that Tianya did not know that as well? Me for extra chapters. The old housekeeper continued respectfully, just earlier, I've heard that a black dragon was heading toward the Spirit Beast Mountain. I wonder if it's the same one that Jia Xian spoke of. Tian Yi's aura immediately became imposing. He grabbed the old housekeeper by his collar. Why didn't you say so earlier? I've also just heard and come here immediately to report to you, General. Tianya raised his arm and pushed the old housekeeper to the ground. I'm making a trip to the Spirit Beast Mountain. When Lianqing comes back, have him take care of General Manor. Understood, General. After the old housekeeper had spoken, Tian Yi flipped his sleeve before walking smartly out of General Manor. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared into the dark of the night. At the Spirit Beast Mountain, within a dark cave, a few leopards were curled up together. They were hiding in the dark, not daring to make any movements. Just then, footsteps could be heard around the entrance. The leopards lifted their heads to look over at the entrance. In an instant, a familiar silhouette appeared in their eyes, filling them with joy. However, when they saw the few humans following behind that silhouette, they were startled as fury sparked in their gaze. Chapter 1478, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 6, Ah Hua, how could you partner up with humans too? Ah Hua. The corners of Feng Lianqing's mouth twitched. Is the naming standard of spirit beasts that low? A male leopard with the name Ah Hua. Pfft. Doesn't he feel embarrassed? Shao Qing subconsciously looked up at Feng Ruqing. Yeah, The naming standards of these spirit beasts were on par with the princess. So, your name is Ah Hua. Feng Ruching was smiling brightly. This name sounds good. It's simple and nice. Feng Lianqing was baffled. Just which part of it is nice? Stand there. Seeing Feng Ruching and her group getting closer, the leopard in front immediately flared up in anger. He stood up and roared, "If you guys come any closer, don't blame us for not showing you mercy. Ah Hua, you've disappointed us. We never thought you would side with humans. Ah Hua, is this how you honor our fallen tribesmen? What benefit did this human give you that made you lead her here?" Upon hearing his comrade's words, Ah Hua fell into deep thought. Was the spirit herb dish that healed his injuries considered a benefit? It seems that your comrades don't welcome us. Nan Xian, let's go. Feng Ruching shrugged and turned to leave. Ah Hua instantly became anxious. He quickly pounced over to block Feng Ruching's way. Didn't we already agree? They're a hard-working bunch. Really? You can't just leave like that. Ah Hua. That leopard got angrier. Did you sell us off to humans as servants? Ah Hua, you're too much. You would stop at nothing to sell us off. A leopard like you isn't fit to be our comrade. Ah Hua had no mind to pay his comrades. There was worry in his eyes as he explained nervously, "My tribesmen actually have an excellent temper. They're also very good at labor with boundless strength. They can do anything. Didn't we already agree? You can't just leave like that." The leopards were going mad with fury. Their gaze on Ah Hua became even more disappointed. Feng Ruching shrugged. "They don't need me for extra chapters. No, I can accept on their behalf." Ah Hua did not care anymore. "As long as you agree, I'm willing to accept your request on their behalf." Feng Ruching saw the leopard's eyes turning red from anxiousness. She reached out a hand to pat his head before taking out a huge pot from the medium. This pot still had the spirit herb soup she had made earlier. It was still a little warm. "Well, wait for you at the cave's entrance. Bring them out to see me later. I still have some things I'd like to ask you." Ah Hua's eyes sparkled. "All right. Thank you. You're a wonderful person. The best I've ever met." He had forgotten how he had treated Feng Ruching initially. His eyes were now filled with the spirit herb soup in front of him as his saliva almost fell. Fortunately, Ah Hua had great control of himself. He knew that he should let his heavily injured comrades consume it first. And so, he resisted his inner desires but continued to stare longingly at the pot. Feng Ruching did not say anything else. She went outside the cave. The night in the Spirit Beast Mountain was quiet. However, who knew how much danger lurked in this silence? She squatted down in front of a tree and looked up at the moon. The night was bewitching. Moonlight fell onto her beautiful face. "Nan Xian. Did you realize that on our way here, we didn't meet many strong spirit beasts?" Chapter 1479, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 7, "Yeah, that's true." Nan Xian stood beside the girl. His gaze on her was warm, with a hint of gentleness. "Well, leave the Spirit Beast Mountain tomorrow." A glint flashed through Feng Ruching's eyes. "I have to find Xiaoye no matter how and what it takes." Xiao Qing spoke feebly, "Princess, did you notice that the girl I've bitten looks a bit like Tang Yin? Her shamelessness was a little like Tang Yin's too." Feng Ruching raised her eyebrows. "Did you notice as well? Not only their appearance but even their scents are also alike. We spirit beasts are very sensitive to this. She might have some relation with Tang Ying." There was suspicion in Xiao Qing's eyes. But why would Tang Yin be related to anyone from Land of No Return? Isn't she from Sangyu mainland? Moreover, Tang Yin was a beast man while Lianyi was fully human. Feng Ruqing patted Xiao Qing's head. Your senses aren't bad. My instincts are telling me the same. So, when the time comes, I have to ask about Lianyi's background thoroughly. Just as Feng Ruqing was about to speak again, she saw Feng Lianqing leading the little prince over. The little prince was cringing slightly. It was not until they left the cave entrance that he finally let out a sigh of relief. He was afraid that the spirit beasts would pounce at him and swallow him alive just now. Compared to Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian, those spirit beasts were way scarier. At least these two people would not swallow him alive. Feng Lianqing. Feng Ruqing stood up. Do you remember what you have promised me today? Feng Lianqing was stunned. After some thought, he understood what Feng Ruqing was referring to. You mean Lianyi? Yeah. Feng Ruqing's lips curved slightly. How much do you know about her? Feng Lianqing glanced sympathetically at Nan Xian before quickly retracting his gaze and saying in all seriousness, Lianyi isn't a good woman. There was silence. She likes to eat garlic, is always picking the bottom of her feet, and has an athlete's foot. She would even fart while she ate. Oh, she doesn't like children. You're pregnant, so shall bully your child, me for extra chapters. There was still silence. So, a married woman like you shouldn't be interested in her. Feng Ruqing was stunned. What did her being married have anything to do with her interest in Lianyi? I just want to know about Lianyi's background. Her background? I'm not too sure. Just think of her as an orphan. There's no need for you to meet her parents anyway. You're a married woman. Please restrain yourself. Feng Ruqing was a little confused. She just wanted to inquire about some information about Lianyi. What did that have anything to do with her being a married woman? Feng Lianqing. She gritted her teeth. Feng Lianqing looked troubled. I really don't know. She met my master before me. Back when I started following my master, she was already in general manner. I can be considered her childhood friend, but we didn't come from the same place. I wouldn't know even if you asked me. Oh. Feng Ruqing pouted. She had saved this man for nothing. How dull. Nan Xian, let's take the leopards with us later. Upon hearing that Feng Ruqing was about to leave, the little prince cried as he pounced over and hugged her leg. Goddess sister, don't leave me behind. Bring me along. Feng Lianqing is too weak. If I follow him, my life will be in danger. Those spirit beasts keep eyeing my fats. Feng Ruqing lifted her leg to kick the little prince away. Get lost, male being. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.